I love rivalries. It's great for the game. My biggest rivalry is the other side, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have a unique experience of playing for both of them and doing pretty well with both. How does that come when that game comes up twice a year? How do you kind of feel?
I'm neutral.
You're neutral.
I'm neutral. And, I got to play for, I say, 4 iconic franchises in my lifetime. And Baltimore was the one that gave me my Super Bowl ring. So
There we go.
they got a special place in my heart.
Yeah, okay, I thought so.
And it's intercepted by Marlon Humphrey.
Marlon Humphrey is without a doubt in the conversation to be the best corner in football.
All right, guys, we're back at Studio 44 with Hall of Famer Rod Woodson. Really excited to have him here. Always great to have a gold jacket sitting in front of me. Rod, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I got to start off with this. I love rivalries. It's great for the game. My biggest rivalry is the other side, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have a unique experience of playing for both of them and doing pretty well with both. How does that come when that game comes up twice a year? How do you kind of feel?
I'm neutral.
You're neutral.
I'm neutral. I came into the league, got drafted by the Steelers. I was first round, 10th player taken. Spent 10 wonderful years there. Great organization. They have their motto is the standard is the standard, right? So I got to be around Chuck Noll, who's 2-time winning Super Bowl champ back-to-back, the only coach to ever do that. Mean Joe Green was there. Got to play Donnie Shell. He was in his last year. John Stallworth, that's how old I am. John Stallworth was still playing. That was his last year. Okay. So I got to be around all those iconic guys. And then Mel Blount, who I think is the best corner to ever play in the National Football League. When they change rules for you, you're doing something right. So Mel was there, and I got to meet Mel and be a part of that whole organization for 10 years. It was one of those things that, when I got to come here, this was a young team when I got here, third year. They just got back, and football just got back into town. And, Ray was in his third year. J.O. was his third year. Those guys were really good athletes, but we had to try to figure out how to win. So all the stuff that we kind of did in Pittsburgh, we kind of started doing here a little bit, but then Ray took it to the next level. And then now the saying here is, play like a Raven. Yep. That's why I think the teams always play extremely well against each other. They don't like the colors. It's like a turf war, right? Yeah. They don't like the colors, but I think they respect each other. Yep. And so I like to watch the game because it's always a close game. I think all the games except 1 or 2 in the time frame in the last 10 years have been scored. I think we've been won by more than 10 points. So it's always a close game. So I just like watching that. I take my emotions out of it. I like watching ball. I'm a football junkie. I've been playing football since I've been 9 years old. And, I got to play for, I say, 4 iconic franchises in my lifetime. And Baltimore was the one that gave me my Super Bowl ring. So
there we go.
They got a special place in my heart.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. So you spoke on Ray. I think it's interesting, what was it like seeing Ray and Jonathan, those guys that were young, kind of grow into these? You were well on your way to your own Hall of Fame career, but seeing those guys young and then seeing them put on their own gold jacket, how was that like seeing them kind of grow in those years?
Yeah, when I got here, I was year 12 for me. So they called me Mr. Woodson. When they told me, hey, man, I used to play with you. I played with you at Tecmo Bowl. I'm like, oh, come on, man, come on. I said, Mr. Woodson was my dad. Don't call me Mr. Woodson. I'm Rod. But, being with Ray, I didn't spend a lot of time with J.O. I spend more time with him now than I do when I was, playing, because offense and defense is always split up. That. But being with Ray, he was just one of those runners, the guy that led the team in tackles every year, led the league in tackles. And my challenge to him was to let's learn the game at a higher level. He studied film already, but let's study it even better. And let's push all our teammates to do the right thing every single day, every single play, every single moment of the day. And if you do that and you speak up when practices are going slow, when they're going fast, when you give love to players, they're gonna follow you because you're their contemporary. And the first year he did it a little bit. The second year he did it even more. The third year kind of clicked for him. And that's where I started seeing how great Ray Lewis is going to be as a leader. He was a baller already on the football field, but as a leader of men on the field and off the field, that's when he really developed as a one of those guys that people followed. And when he spoke, the guys, not just in Baltimore, but around the league, they listened to him. And to me, it was kind of like that big brother feeling. Like I was really proud of him to see him kind of grow up and get through his adolescence in his late 30s. Because I know it took me a long time to get through my adolescence. But to see the type of player he became at the end, where I can say arguably he's the best middle linebacker I ever seen play, is pretty special.
And speaking of great players, you have Defensive Player of the Year, All-Pro, Pro Bowl, Super Bowl. Take away the accolades and the Super Bowl. What year do you think was just a year when you were like, man, I played my best ball this year?
Well, how I got to the best ball first is in my third year. Tony Dungy just left us. He was my defensive back coach and my defense coordinator. He just left. We got a guy named Rod Rust that came in as our defense coordinator. He challenged me to learn the game more mental than physical. And I was like, okay, well, then teach me. I don't got no wife. I ain't doing nothing after practice. And this was off season. So him and I, all by ourselves, met in the office 5 straight weeks. His first question was asked me was, how many formations can our offense get into? I was like, 500. I mean, I don't know. And he was like, no, how many eligible receivers? I said 5. He was like, they can get in 5 formations. And he said, what they do is that they give you different personnel groupings, move those pieces around, finish up with a formation, and they only run so many plays out of those formations. And then he started showing film, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then about 4 weeks into it, the little green light clicked on. I was like, you got to be, that's all they do? He's like, yep, that's all they do. Wow. You just got to believe it when you see it. I said, don't worry about that. I'm going to believe it. And so if it wasn't for him to get to my best year, and I think my best year was the year I won the MVP, because I had 7 picks in the first 6 weeks.
Sheesh.
And then I had 1 pick after that.
They
didn't throw my weight no more. They didn't throw my weight no more. But I mean, it's one of those things that it was one of those years that Dick LeBeau, playing in that system, I got to blitz, I got to show different coverages, he let me be me inside of his system. And a lot of coaches don't let you do that because they want you to play their way. But I think the great coaches allow their players to be who they are inside their systems, because when you're comfortable, that's when you play your best. So I would say it was that MVP year, the defensive MVP year, 93.
And so I think it's really interesting to play such a long career at DB. I know later you ended up making the transition to safety. How was that transition like? What kind of led to that?
Well, I was a safety my whole life until I ran my 40 at the combine.
Okay.
I ran a 4.28. They was like, no, you're going to be a corner. I was like, what? No, I'm not. I play with my eyes. You can't play with your eyes at corner.
You did not do that. That is true.
So that was a learning lesson for me, though. So when I got in the league, Tony was good for me, because Tony wasn't going to yell at me, curse at me, belittle me, because I didn't know what I was doing out there. I always played from the top down. I was a safety from 9 years old all the way to Purdue. I played a little corner my last year, but I played a bunch of positions my last year at Purdue. I played corner, safety, receiver, running back. So I did a little everything, not knowing what I was going to do in the league. So it took me probably 2.5 years to understand corner. Like, what do I really need to do? Because Tony used to ask me all the time, hey, man, what are you thinking about? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm thinking right now, because I still don't know how to play out here. I play with my eyes. And then I realized I can play with my eyes, but then I can make that quarterback see something that he really doesn't see. So that's when I started playing off on cover 2 at 8 yards. Then I start press bailing, stopping at 3 yards in cover 2. Then I would move around in my coverages, and I started doing my half split rules. So depending on where the ball is at on the field, I would line up inside or out. All that stuff kind of came over the course of time, but it was that third year kind of really clicked for me.
For you.
I needed those 3 years to get it, but then on that third year, that's when I got Rod Russ too, though.
Yep.
That's when he cussed me out and he really challenged me, and then it all came together.
So, 4.28 40. You guys, that was back at the combine. You guys were doing combine.
Combines.
So,
Were we doing? What? How old you think? You think we like ancient?
honestly, I don't know what used to be going on.
We had
back
leather
in the day.
helmets back in the day.
Honestly,
He
I didn't
said,
know
"Do
you was in the
have-
helmet era
Did
or
you
not."
do come?
but no. I don't know if there was I don't know when the national.
So the
combine actually
combine was in Indianapolis for the first time the year I came out in 1987. That was the first year it was in Indy.
started. Okay.
And I went to Purdue, so it's right up the road, it's 45, 50-minute drive right up the road. They told me, hey, you got the combine in a couple weeks, but I was already running track. So I was like, combine, what's the combine? I didn't know what the combine was. And it was like, oh, it's when they get the top 300 guys and they take them up there to work out at Indy for football. I'm like, okay, so I just drove up. Combine was 2 days. Did our stuff, did our physicals and all that stuff, did our own field work, did our little Wonder Leg test. I think it took me probably 30 seconds to finish that. All I did was go A, B, C, D, D, B, C, A, B, C, D. I went to school for 4 years. I know more than that. What you think?
So you were a track guy too. I know you did hurdles. I did hurdles as well. You saw some records in the hurdles. I wonder, do you think there's a big correlation from track to football that helped you with your game?
Oh yeah, I think speed is everything. When you can run fast, and I don't care what position you're talking about. When you see those big linemen pulling, they coming really quick. I mean, they're a little scary. So speed for me track was my first love.
Nice. Same.
Right? Track was my first love. Football was my first, team love, though. Because track is a team, but there's 8 individual lanes for a reason. Right? You running against your boys.
Yeah.
Right? You guys all gather points up at the end of the day to try to win the track meet for your team. Football, there's no individual lanes in football. You have to play together. So there are 2 team sports that are completely different. And that's why I love track, though, because, I had a team atmosphere, but I got to run against my fellas. You know how it is when you go against your guys. Yeah. You get to tease your guys yeah, dude, I got you today, right? So for me, I started running track when I was 12, and I just got a little bit better. And then luckily I found some great coaches, especially my last year in college when I started running track before I got to the pros again, and ran my really good time in the hurdles where I got a hurdling coach. So that to me, I think are 2 different sports, but track has always been that love that I still follow today. A lot of my buddies ran track back in the day. That's one of the things I think if I have not ran track, I don't know if I would have been as good as a football player because I never would have been optimizing my top end speed.
Track, I really enjoy track. I keep up with them now. I have a lot of people that actually I know that are competing, so it's been cool seeing those people blossom.
Do you think track helped you in your career?
I think so for sure. I think for me it gave me something completely different to work on as far as, especially with hurdles. I never was doing football year round.
Right.
I think that breakup was really good for me just to get that breakup doing something different. Still working on speed that can help with both, but it was a really good kind of breakup for me.
Yeah, for me, I loved it. Also, it kept me very flexible.
Yeah.
Because you can't be a tight hurdler.
You cannot be a tight hurdler.
Right. So if you're a tight hurdler, you got some issues.
You got
You're
some
knocking out
issues.
all the hurdles.
Yeah.
So for me, the flexibility of being a hurdler really helped me in football. It allowed me to be in odd positions and still get out of it without getting hurt.
Yeah. I think that's a big key. So when you talk about, the people you saw, I know you had some matchups with Jerry Rice, a lot of different great players on all sides of the ball. Who would you say was the matchup that was probably your favorite guy to go against?
Ooh, favorite.
Never really a favorite, but
That's an interesting way to say it.
Yeah, I know there's not a favorite, but
I would say the toughest. I played against Jerry, but I only played against Jerry twice, and Jerry is young the first time around.
yep.
But the person that really gave me issues that I saw twice a year, every year, was Webster Slaughter. So he was a 5'10" receiver from Cleveland, had shakes. He played in the slot. I played nickel. Normally nickels are smaller corners, DBs, than being 6 foot, than 210 pounds. So him being in that slot, he gave me some issues. And I was still learning how to play corner and nickel at the same time. So he gave me issues and he talked a lot. And I'm not a real talker. I'm a blue collar guy. Like, all right, just, bro, shut up. We be good. But he was one of those guys that loved to run his little mouth. And he was hard to cover though. And he made it hard. He was one of them. And Andre Reed was another one because Andre, Hall of Fame receiver.
Yep.
Andre he's might be a little bit bigger than me, about 6'1"-ish, 6'2", about 215. And normally those slot receivers, I'd put my hand on them, they would stop. Yeah. So I put my hand on him, he just slapped it down, kept on going. I had to figure out another game plan with him.
Yeah, I think I get in the slot too. Those smaller guys were easier, but those bigger, it's tough. It gets tough. So out of all those matchups, I guess I kind of still want to ask you about corner to safety. What were kind of the biggest differentials? You moved to safety later in your career.
I moved it when I was here in Baltimore. After my 12th year, I moved there.
And you stayed there for the rest of your career, right?
For the rest of my career.
So how was that kind of later in your career? How was your body, I guess, feeling as you went through those later years?
I mean, it was a relief, but I had to recalculate everything because playing corner, you play corner, everything's over here.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's always at an angle this way. And then when you come back here and you're like that all 22, you're like, yeah, shoot, it's a little bit
different.
These angles are a little bit different.
A little different.
And I think, I don't know if it was our first preseason game or a second. We played Atlanta in the preseason. Jamal Lewis came through, hit me. Matter of fact, he gave me that little scar right here. I woke up, I got up and bleeding. I looked at Ray, I said, ooh, I don't know about the safety, bro. We go back to the huddle laughing. I'm like, man, okay, I gotta get a little bit stronger. Gotta gain some weight. So I think I gained like another 4 to 5 pounds, but it was more muscle. And then all the feelings came back, like what I could do, how I can, because on a corner, they don't have to throw your way, they just don't throw your way. Well, you can at safety, you can kind of act like you're going somewhere, come back, you can move around a lot, still be involved in the game, which, I mean, that's what I enjoy doing. And it kind of came back little by little, week after week. I had to figure out like what my angles were going to be, what I want to show the quarterback and the receivers. And then it kind of, probably mid-season the first year, it clicked all back in.
Yeah, that transition, I know, I was on the team with Jimmy. He tried to make that transition. It's definitely a lot different coming downhill as opposed to having that angle. And so I want to talk about that 2000 championship defense. I played for the Ravens, obviously, but I did not know much history about it. I did know that it was the defense did a lot of scoring, like a lot of scoring. Sometimes the offense didn't. What was kind of you guys' mindset? I know there was a streak when the offense went 4 games.
5.
No touchdowns. What was the mindset on defense to think we really can't give up anything if we're going to win this game?
That was a process though. So when I got here in '98, the process was to be the best that we could be each and every day, or be a better version of ourselves tomorrow than we are today. Well, how do you do that? You got to work. I mean, there's no secret to success outside of working at it. So for us, it was going into practice, running to the ball every single down, every single play, even the big boys. Everybody had to touch the ball. I mean, that's what we did. Everybody, every single down, had to go touch the ball. And that was our conditioning. So when you played against us, we're going to play just as fast in the first quarter that we did in the fourth quarter. And, each year we got a little bit better, but that third year, everything kind of clicked. I think Marvin Lewis, who was our defense coordinator, he called some great games. He had some great game plans. But then Marvin would also start listening to us. Like we were uncomfortable with some of the plays and some of the calls. He would take them out of the game plan. And then, all the guys from the front end to, you know, to Sam Adams, to Tony Siragusa, to Michael McCrary, to Peter Boulware, to Rob Burnett. I mean, those guys can get after the quarterback. And they couldn't run the ball against us. I mean, nobody could run the ball against us. So in the secondary, we didn't have to worry about it. So we stayed back, no seams, no posts, no goals. They tried to throw the ball deep. We try to, you know, make some plays on the ball deep. We knew they weren't going to run the ball against us. And, you know, at the end of the day, I could arguably say that was the best defense I've ever seen play football. And I'm including the 85, 86 Bears. I'm including those guys just for the fact we broke their record. So their scoring record in 16-game season, we broke that by, I think, like 23 points or something like that. I mean, obviously, that record is never going to be broken, adding the 17-game and the rule changes and all that stuff. I think it all just kind of came together, and we played for each other. Marvin, I think that year, Marvin, if he wasn't, should have been assistant coach of the year because he had some great game plans for us.
So you guys are all just all on one accord. I mean, that's what we preach about all the time in our room. It's crazy when it all clicks. And we were talking about today as the DBs, our coach is asking us, you know, when did you start playing the game and why do you still play the game? And I'm curious, when did you start and what is your why?
The why? I mean, I started playing because my brothers played. I was the youngest of three boys. They were playing. I'm like, I don't want to be at the crib by myself. Mom, I want to play. So I started playing for the Powell Raiders when I was 9. And the reason I dedicated myself when I got into the league is my father was a blue-collar worker. That's all he did. He didn't even have a high school degree. So he worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. All I knew was how to work. So me running on the track and working out in the weight room, that stuff was nothing. Seeing him come home with like grease in his hands and not making enough money to make ends meet, and do we have to keep the water on or the gas on and get food? That's life. Those are life issues. So what I was doing, it was kind of easy, to be honest. And I had coaches in place and people in place in my life throughout my time, especially in the pros, having Tony Dungy when I first come in. Because if I would have had a yeller and holler when I first came in, I don't know if I would have made it. Because I would have pushed back a little bit. And then Tony taught me to calm down. You don't always have to speak your mind about everything. And then Rod Russ comes in, and then after that, I get Dick LeBeau, Dom Capers, and Bill Cowher. But Dick LeBeau was he was the key. He was the catalyst of his defense. And, you know, not having all those guys taught me off season, just work hard, just train, stay on the track, keep my speed, keep my endurance, get to a point where I've trained while I'm tired. So we used to get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, go swimming, had a swim workout. From the swim, we went to the track. From the track, we went to lifting. From the lifting, we went to the field. We did that every single day. I did that for 15 years.
That's a day.
And we were there from 6 in the morning. I probably got home about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That, to me, helped me become the player I was. Because in the game, even when I got tired, I still was going to challenge myself. I wasn't going to play off. You still got to show me you're going to beat me.
Yeah. Okay, last question. And I love asking people this in whatever sport, whatever position. What is the hardest thing about playing corner in the NFL?
I think it's the hardest position to play, especially with the rule change, especially for you guys.
Yeah, it's different.
You know, because you guys, even though there's a 5-yard chuck rule, they just don't let you touch them.
Yes.
But I think playing corner, the hardest thing is, you know, if you give up 1 touchdown out of 9, you had a bad day.
Bad day, gosh, that's
but
true.
if a quarterback is, 7 of 10 with 2 tubs, he had a great day.
Yeah.
You can't give up touchdowns in the pros, right? If you do that here, then you lose it.
Won't be around long.
that's to me the harder thing was, getting beat and then having to apologize to your teammates if we lose.
I know. Rod, thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, man.
It was great.
Absolutely.